Okay, everybody, it seems that the number of participants has stabilized. So once again, welcome to the second webinar to the C-MobILE TestFest event. I'm your moderator. My name is Peter Schmitting. I'm working for Attico. Let's start the presentations. We will have several speakers you will see, and hopefully we can give you all the information you need to have a successful participation in the TestFest then in a month's time in Vigo. Let's start. Well, let's try to start. Okay, now it works. First of all, a little bit of introduction about this webinar. I'm the moderator, as I said, Peter Schmitting. I'm from Attico. I'll be the TestFest coordinator. But then we have the speakers that have the technical knowledge and are going to tell you the interesting things. There's going to be Pablo Mejuto, Jose Fernandez, oops, sorry, that's my fault, and Andrea Becerra from CTAG. They're acting as project manager at CTAG, as manager for the C2X and mobility services, and as manager for cloud computing. That are the three from CTAG. And then we have a special guest, Bart Netten from TNO, who is the evaluation manager, who is going to talk to you about the evaluation of results at this event and about file formats. That will be a bit later in this presentation. Some more about the webinar. You're all muted, so you can talk, but we do not hear you. But you can still ask questions in the control panel to this webinar. You can write your questions during the presentation. Ideally, you should refer to the slide number in your question, which is found on the left-hand lower side of each slide, and the moderator, which is me. I will review your questions, and at suitable moments during the webinar presentation, I will read out those questions, and the technical people that have the right knowledge will answer them. The whole webinar will be recorded, and this recorded webinar, together with the PowerPoint slides, will be posted on the C-MobILE website. And some frequently asked questions that will be coming from you, of course, will be captured and posted also on the C-MobILE website. So, what are we going to talk about? I will give a very, very brief introduction to C-MobILE, as there may be some people on the call that don't know what C-MobILE is. A little bit what is the objective of this TestFest. Then I hand over to CTAG, and you will hear where it is, which services are applied, about the communication technologies, the geo-messaging platform, something about evaluation and file formats from Bart. Then we have a schedule that Pablo is going to present, and then I end the call showing some questions and answers and giving the contacts where you can get more information after this webinar. Okay, very shortly, something about C-MobILE. C-MobILE is a project, and as the name is one of these fancy abbreviation. So C-MobILE stands for Accelerating CITS Mobility Innovation and Deployment in Europe. The main asset of this project are the large-scale deployment in pilot sites, which you see here in the middle. So there are pilot sites in Bilbao, North Brabant, Thessaloniki, Barcelona, Vigo, Newcastle, Copenhagen, and Bordeaux. And Vigo was chosen as the site for this TestFest. Some more figures about C-MobILE. It's an EU-funded project in the Horizon 2020 program. It has a grant agreement with a number, of course. The coordinator is A+ and IDATA, and that's Alex Vallejo. For the ones that were on the first webinar, I had the wrong name. I corrected that. Sorry again, Alex, that I had the wrong name. The period of the project is 1st of June 2017 to the 30th of November 2020. So we have about a good year of project to go. The budget is roughly 15 million euros, and 12.5 of those 15 have been funded by the EC. So here you get the partners, the consortium, you have public authorities, research and academia, users and industry, and of course you have some associated partners that work around this. If you want to have a closer look at this, download the slides afterwards and look at the different partners here. So the CITS services that are deployed, there are several bundles. So the ones in red are the ones we're actually going to test. Jose is going to give you details about all these services. So, but we have a lot of different services in urban efficiency, infrastructure to vehicle safety, where we're going to test roadwork warning and road hazard warning. Then we have some on traffic efficiency. There we're going to test CLOSA and in vehicle signage. And the last bundle is vehicle to vehicle safety. And there we test the service slow or stationary vehicle warning. And to what end are we testing that? The objective of the TestFest is to check the actual interoperability of all C-MobILE devices intended to be used in the context of the large-scale pilots, and to check the interoperability of devices from non-C-MobILE participants. And thereby we want to prove the correct transmission of service information through ITS G5 and cellular channels. And the final expected result we are heading for is that C-MobILE information is understood by all participating devices, and that information from the Vigo servers is correctly understood by other applications. So I guess that's all I wanted to say. So I hand over to Pablo, who is going to talk about where the TestFest is going to happen and some more things. So Pablo, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Peter, and good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. Now I'm going to explain a little bit where we are going to make tests and what you will find when you arrive. So I'm sure that many of you joined already the first webinar, so you know that we will test around the city of Vigo, in the industrial area of Vigo. So CTAG is placed in this industrial area. It's not in the city of Vigo, but is close by in a town called Porriño. So you can see that we have three test areas that are in two main places. The small circle is for the CTAG facilities. You can have the GPS coordinates there, or the direction, the address to arrive. We will have there the test the first and second days of the TestFest. This means the 2nd and the 3rd of December. We will meet there, and we will be able to test in our facilities and in a track that we prepare for this, that I will explain later. And the 3rd day, the 4th of December, we can go to the city of Vigo and make some tests there in the city, in the real environment with real data. So we go to the next slide, please. Next one. Okay, so the first day you should arrive to our facilities. Again, you can find there the address and the coordinates. So there you will have some reserved slots for parking. It's a bit difficult to park outside, so I will reserve as much as I can for all the participants. And once you park your car, if you click, you have to go to the reception, is where I'm indicating with the blue arrow. So you have to go there and sign up some forms for confidentiality, and then you can go to the briefing area where we will meet all together. If you click, Peter, please, we can see a map. This is the map of our inside installation. So you have to go from the reception to the meeting room. That is very is very close by. So there we will have the briefing and all the instructions that you may need and questions you may want to make for the day or for the complete TestFest, the 3 days. And after this, we can start with the tests. Thank you. So as I said before, we will have 3 areas. One is the city of Vigo, you can see in the map on the upper side. And then we have another 2 ones close by the CTAG and in the test track. The test track is inside of our facilities. And then we will have another route, which is starting from CTAG and arriving to the CTAG facilities. All these test areas are in our Cisco corridor, which is an infrastructure that we equipped from time ago with many roadside units and other stuff for these kind of technologies. And as I said in the first webinar, we will have the ITSD5 communication that we will explain later, and also cellular in all these corridors as well. So going area by area, if we go to the next one, please, we can see the test track is one of our testing areas. Here we will have the GLOSA service, road hazard warning, and roadworks warning. We will have the traffic light for sure, and then we will have at least 1 warning, or maybe 2. We will have to check this because it's not a big test track. It's not small, but maybe not as big for 2. But we will give more data about this during the briefing. So we will have the warnings and also the traffic light in the ring of this test track, and then we have the black lagoon, the black area that you see there, that we will have for parking and make some adjustments if needed for the participant, or to have a rest or set up anything. Any of this information we will be giving more in detail with safety instructions during the briefing every day, the days of the TestFest. We can go to one important thing is that you will need to bring a safety vest for coming to the test track. This is important. It's a safety rule that we have in our company. Next one, please. This is the test route that we have planned to do starting and arriving from CTAG facilities. So the route is we will have the road hazard warning, roadworks warning, slow stationary vehicle warnings, and also IVS services. So we can do this route clockwise or the opposite. And this route is made with interurban roads and also motorway. So we can have 2 different types of roads, the ones that you see at the bottom. And we can have some warnings in both type of roads. We will have some, let's say, surprises in this route with a collaboration company that will join this event as well. I don't want to say everything now. And then for the 3rd day, you will be invited to go to the city of Vigo. There you can test the services in a real environment with real data, because for the test track and for the route in the motorway and interurban road, everything will be simulated. So in the city of Vigo, you will have real data from the traffic lights and also for the warnings, if there are any. So here you will have the GLOSA service, road hazard warning, and road works warning, again, if there are any applies. And this route, you can drive in more roads or more streets than the ones that you see on the screen, but the ones that we suggest or we recommend are the ones that you see there, because it's easier to go and back thanks to the roundabouts. But you can drive all around the city and have information from the traffic lights that are installed if they are not in maintenance or something like this. So this route is starting from Avenida de Madrid, which is the first street that you will find coming from CTAG, and then you have to go to Plaza America, which is a roundabout, and go back to where you started. So you can test this in a comfortable way with many traffic lights in this route. Okay. Next one. Yeah.
Okay. I guess. Thank you, Pablo. I think now it's Jose that takes over, if I understand correctly. So thank you, Pablo, and Jose, please go ahead.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. Well, I will go on what already explained by Pablo. First, for those who already were attending the first webinar, first slide will be just remembering what explained before about in that webinar about the services that could be tested, the technologies used, and then go a little bit more in detail, explaining the main standards that will be supporting this service deployment for the different technologies. So in this first slide is just showing the different services that will be tested during the TestFest, as named here: the roadworks warning, road hazard warning, the stationary vehicle warning, this and vehicle signage. This is more for the interurban areas, and then more for the urban area we will have the time to red, time to green. So next slide, please. Well, here we will go quickly through them, as they are just for most of you they are well known. Which is the description of the objective for the different services. The main objective for all of them is to get more attentive and adjusted driving when approaching to those areas where different traffic events may be somehow affecting to the normal traffic conditioning. In this case, the first one is for the roadworks warning. The communication channels that used for these services will be both ITSG5 and cellular, and it will be tested in the CTAG surroundings. The next slide, please. Same approach for the road hazard warning. In this case, for instance, will be arranging to trigger for a traffic jam ahead warning, as it's depicted in the picture. Objective is again related to safety, to get more attentive driving while approaching to the affected area. And to provide this information, we will be using again the ITSG5 and cellular channels, and again it will be tested in the CTAG surroundings. For the next slide, same again for the stationary vehicle warning, but in this case it will be provided just through cellular, as it will be somehow computed in the own vehicles the information about the presence of such event, and it will be tested in the CTAG surroundings. So it will be a V2V, V2 and to V event. Now that it's the time to red, time to green, they will be tested both in the city of Vigo in a real environment and also in the CTAG test track, as Pablo was explaining before. We will be using both the ITSG5 and cellular, and in this case we will be providing information about the phase and the remaining time for change for the traffic light where the vehicles are approaching. The objective of this service is to give the possibility to the drivers to adapt their speed according to the remaining time for get the red or the green or the green phase, but the information provided will be the time to red and time to green. So next slide, please. And now the final one is the vehicle signage. Again, in this case, the thing is to provide information about the conventional variable message sign in vehicle. So with the goal that it can be potentially displayed through its entire validity, then it's this information can be provided in a safer way to the driver. The communication channels will be both ITS-G5 and cellular, and it will be tested in the CTAG surroundings. Then, trying to summarize where the technologies will be available, we will have the cellular for all services, and information will be provided through the CTAG geomessaging platforms, through the different GeoServer channels that my colleague Andrea will be explaining later on. And for the ITS-G5, we will be using the Ciscoga corridor, also in the urban city of Vigo and in the CTAG surroundings, including the highways and conventional roads that Pablo was commenting. And we will be using also in CTAG facilities our test track to test the services commented before. So in the next slide, we are summarizing here. They were already shown in the first webinar. The standards devoted for facilities and security layers. One of the strong points of this event is that we will have the chance to test the different version of the standards, both for DNM CAM and for mapping, spatting, and even both the version that was decided to be used at the very beginning of the project in the C-MobILE. So this will be tested in the CTAG test track and in the test circuit, so in the CTAG surroundings. And in Vigo City, we will have the chance to test the latest version of the standards, both for facilities and for the security layer. In terms of the cellular part, following the approach agreed in the C-MobILE project, the payload for the messages to be exchanged will be using the ASM.1 messages related to these standard versions, both in the test track and test circuit, and also in Vigo City. And the security will be based on the authentication and authorization by the JSON Web Token, as defined in the C-MobILE project. Concerning the profiling of the messages of the DNM, CAM, mapping, spatting, and evening, they will be profiled according to the public C-Roads release 1.3. And here in this slide, going a little bit further, but I guess that is not a new for you, for the access layer and networking and transport layers, here depicted the main standards that the infrastructure deployed here in both in the test track and also in the Ciscoga corridor, so in the CTAG surroundings and in Vigo City, will be the ones mentioned here. And well, you may check, they are the conventional one, both for the access layer and networking and transport layer. So really no big thing here, but just make clear that we will be using the conventional standards, as it couldn't be in a different way. Again, I'm remembering here that for the message profiling, we will be using the guidelines provided in the C-Roads release 1.3, and this is valid both for the, of course, for the ITSG5 communication, but also for cellular, as the messages are exchanged are containing also these message standard basis with the DNM and CAP. Concerning security for ITSG5, the C-MobILE environment, to call it somehow, so in the CTAG test track and in surrounding CTAG, there will be no security applying in terms of ITSG5, as what we have already deployed here is the latest version of the standard, as commented in the previous slide. So this will be up and running in the Vigo city in order to make exchanges possible with this infrastructure. Somehow you have to be registered in our PKI in order to simplify the mechanism and to make communication between potential different PKIs. So here is listed the information that in case you want to test in Vigo City, so to be registered in our PKI, the information that should be provided. It should be the canonical ID, the public technical key, and well, this is not mandatory but optional to be giving information about the key curve you are using and the different permissions. For sure, in order to be registered, maybe specific communication with those of you that wanted to use it can be done in order to clarify this aspect if needed. But as I said, our idea is to simplify the process, then to make a temporary register in our PKI. The goal here is not to make exchange between the different PKI, but to use the security mechanism as identified in the ETSI standard. Next slide, please. And this was all from my side. At the moment, I saw no questions on the panel, but I will be very happy to answer if later on you will have something to ask. Thanks.
So, thank you, Jose. So I also see no questions. So don't be shy. If you have any questions, just type them into the questions section there in the control panel of the webinar, and we'll answer them. So I guess now the next one to present is Andrea about the connection using the cellular technology. So Andrea, please go ahead.
Hello, this is Andrea. I'm in charge of the geomessaging platform. So we will try to introduce a little bit the two main parts of the geomessaging platform that you can see. They are registration server and GeoServer. Then just the hardware requirements and the software requirements to get access to the information spread by the GeoServer. So next time, okay. So the geomessaging platform has two main parts, which are the registration server and the GeoServer. When a device tries to connect to the information provided by a GeoServer previously, its identity needs to be validated by the registration server. The device will send some parameters. The registration server will recognize and will provide a JSON web token. Once the device has verified its identity, it will be able to connect to the MQTT broker that publishes the the messages in the corresponding channels. Depending on the applications that the mobile client want to test, it will subscribe to one channel or to another. We will explain now now we will explain the registration, and then we will go over the topics or channels in more detail. Go ahead with the next slide, please. Okay, so for the registration server, we can have three types of users. The C-MobILE members, they will bring their own application that is interoperable with the CTAG registration server, because we were working for these months in all these interoperability issues, so there won't be a problem. Then for the other participants, we will have two types. Participants with no client app, then CTAG can provide our latest client APK to install in an Android device that you can bring. And then you will be able to see the information, the events, the global services, and everything as we do in our deployment site. And then the last type of users we explain in the next slide. It is the same, no C-MobILE members, but members who want to bring their own application. So to avoid the registration server steps, which are kind of difficult and painful to implement just for testing the services, what we can do, it is to tell you this URL where you can point, and a user and a password that will be removed after the TestFest. Then you can just connect straight to the GeoServer topics. So you would avoid the registration server part. You would see the information straight. Okay, so next. In the next slides, we will focus on how the GeoServer works. It is not very easy to explain quickly, but we will try to give an overview, a quick overview. The GeoServer, it's basically an MQTT broker where we define several topics to subscribe to. In C-MobILE, we have this structure you can see here, ITS Center. It is the name of our GeoServer in CTAG. For other GeoServers, this name changed. And then after that, we will have the message type, which is related to the kind of message you want to receive. We will have, as Jose explained before, this DNM, the EVs, the mappen, the spatten. So this would be the message type. And then the quad tree. The quad tree, I think it is the most difficult part to explain. The quad trees, they act like a geographical filter. We divide the world in little tiles. The 0 level would represent the whole world. You can see in the picture this blue square with a 0. This would represent all the whole world. So if we will split this square in 4 little squares, and you see 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 2, la la la. So if we want to receive the information in Vigo and in CTAG. I mark here in the map. As Pablo explained before, we will have the first days of the webinar, the first day and the second. We will be in CTAG in our facilities, so we will subscribe to the topic I write in here, the ITS, DNM, and 03 la la la. This means this square I put in bold. And then for the Vigo city, we have you see the last number of the topic change. If you want to bring your own application, what I recommend it is to subscribe to these two zones that I specify in here. And like this, you will be able to see all the information related to the messages in Vigo and in CTAG and CTAG surroundings. You have to keep in mind that the name of, we will have ITS Center, then the type of the message. I wrote here DENM, them as an example, but you can subscribe as well to EVs, to MAP, and to SPAT. So you would have to add the other message types. If this is not clear in here, you can ask after the presentation or by mail whenever you want. And here I leave you a brief some reference about how the quadrics are determined, if someone is interested. Then we can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so here I remark again the GeoServers topics you can subscribe to. It is exactly the same I explained before. And the message types. And you can subscribe, I think, as well to the CAM messages that are normally the position of the vehicle and vehicle parameters. As a remark, for the SPAT messages that bring us information about the traffic light phases and time remaining for the green phase, red phase, etc., the structure of the topic changed a bit. You can see ITS Center, SPAT, and the ID of the intersection you want to connect to. No quadrics in these topics. This is by project definition, so we cannot do anything on this. It has to be like this. So you would need to know the ID of the intersection you want to subscribe for testing the GLOSA services or any service related to traffic lights information. So for the first and the second day, I write here the CTAG test track intersection ID, which is the 802. So if you point to this topic, you subscribe to this topic, you will be able to see this phase. For the Vigo intersections, if someone is interested in, as there are many which are emitting the traffic lights information, you can ask me later and I can provide a list. I think it is easier than add the list in here. Okay, so we can continue with the next slide, I think. Okay, for the devices that are already registered with a CTAG application, with a C-MobILE application, or with your own application, they will be considered as a common road users. This means that these client applications can only publish CAM messages and subscribe to Mappens, Pattern, EV, DEM, and CAM messages. But you won't be able to publish other, for example, DEM messages. This is just reserved for the special vehicles like emergency vehicles, police, firemen, or this kind of vehicles. So you can subscribe to see the information of the services, and that's it. Okay, we can go ahead. This is just to explain where we pick the traffic events, like the road hazards, the road works, traffic jams, etc. We gathered information from the traffic management centers, the DGT for the interurban events. It is a national entity which manages these road works and take care of the roads and so on. And for the urban environment, we gather the information from the Vigo City Council. And then we pick this information, we encode it to the ETSI standards that Jose explained before, and then we publish in the GeoServer channels or topics. So then you receive by subscribing to these channels or topics. Okay, we can continue with the next slide. And for the map and SPATS information, which are related to the intersections, it is kind of the same. The regulator of the traffic light send information about the phase status and the time remaining for the phase and the next phase of the traffic light, and then we publish into the GeoServer, into the corresponding GeoServer topics, and that's it. And you can subscribe us for this information. Okay, we can go ahead with the next one. Okay, here I just summarize the hardware requirements that you need to install the CTAG C-MobILE client in case you need it. You just need an Android device with this minimum Android version, or a device with your client application already installed, C-MobILE application or your own. Okay, and the next slide. For the software requirements, it is kind of the same, and just a remark for the C-MobILE client applications, that the registration server must fulfill the requirements we define in the week 44. The GeoServer will be working under these requirements, so it is better for you to have these changes made already. And for the GeoServer messages exchange, it is as usual, no changes. And I think this is all from my side.
Okay, thank you very much, Andrea.
Okay, thank you.
And before I continue with Bart, we have one question. I think the question is to Jose, because it's coming from Joseph Nevely from Czech Alps, and it's regarding security in Vigo city tests. Will there be an option to sideload certificates for devices which does not support TS102.941 version 1.3.1, but support 103.097 version 1.3.1? I think that is something Jose can maybe answer.
Yeah, and unfortunately,
yeah, please go ahead.
Yes. Fortunately, the answer is no, because as commented, what we have already in place, it's the security framework according to the to the latest version of the standard, so to the 1.3.1, that is not backwards compatible with the 1.2.1. So we have the chance to test without security framework, as commented in the CTAG surroundings and in the CTAG test track. And in case of worry to use security, would be with this certificate format.
Okay, thank you, Jose. So I hope that answers the question of Josef. Yeah, Josef. And if not, well, just write another question. So, and I guess now it's time to hand over to Bart, who is going to talk about the validation of interoperability.
Yes, thank you, Peter. The objective for evaluation, and especially the validation during the TestFest, is to check the interoperability on a quantitative level. So not qualitative. You can do that yourselves, of course. But we would like to compare the interoperability of your devices with the road infrastructure and also with the two communication channels, so via the roadside units and via the geo-messaging platform. Interoperability, we look at two levels, at let's say the application level or the service level. If the information that you receive through the messages is well understood and properly transformed into warnings and advice to the drivers. And at the lower levels of the communication stack, of course, on the transmission and the processing of the messages. So in this schema, you see the different levels of logging that we would like to request from you. And obviously the logging is needed to quantify the interoperability. At the top level, we look at the warnings and the information that's presented or logged as presented on your HMI. And the bottom end of your communication stack, we look at the messages that you received and that you sent potentially. And in the middle, you have your applications that detect events and that trigger information. And we are also interested in these decisions and actions. But obviously, most important is the top level, so the HMI level, and the lower level, the communication. If you can move to the next slide, please. Yes, so as I said, we would like to request you to provide log data, obviously for C-MobILE participants. That's already well defined and tested, so we expect every C-MobILE participant, of course, to provide the logging, but also the non-C-MobILE partners are invited to do so. And you can provide the logging preferably via an FTP site where you can upload that, alternatively also via USB stick or something similar. And we have defined a log format in the C-MobILE project. It's now in version 7.10, as you can see. And we will request you to provide your logging after each session. So after each morning and after each afternoon session, so that we can process that. And we will make an attempt to give you as much as possible the results of our analysis during that week or shortly after. You see here a link where you can find the specifications. We still have to add it to the TestFest website of this TestFest, but we will do so shortly. Alternatively, you can use the second link where you can also find the same version 7.10. And the log format in C-MobILE is an extension of what we used in other projects. In Intercore, where we had, I believe, 5 of TestFests, which were organized similar to this one. And also the log data is similar to what we have now. And we also use it in the autopilot project. So I see in the list that we have a number of partners that participated in these projects. So you should be fairly familiar with this format and find that there will only be minor changes. Just to give you an idea of the concept of the logging, if you pass an intersection, like you see on the right-hand side, which is an example from the last Intercore TestFest, if you pass an intersection, then we expect your application to detect that you approach the intersection from the received map message, for example. And as soon as you have spot information and you enter the approach, probably your HMI will trigger the event and will generate a number of actions like updates of information presented on the HMI. And what we would like to ask you is to log these events. And then what we do, as you can see on the right-hand side, is compare for every intersection that we know we send out messages, whether you received the messages, whether it triggered your application, and from what direction, whether you use the information from the spot, so the time to next phase, whether you provided a speed advice. And we would like to do that in a quantitative manner, as we said, and this is one way of presenting that. So if there are any questions on the log format, we don't have much time now, but you can check the websites that are shown here for an update of the log format or for a version of the log format. And if there are any further questions, please email them to us. Thank you, Peter. Up to you now.
Okay, thank you very much, Bob, for that. There was no question on your section, but Josef had rephrased his question because the answer we gave, or Jose gave, was not really answering it. I don't know, Jose, if you had the time to read the question. So, but it says now, I was interested in situation when device supports the latest security standards, so that's version 1.3.1 for communication headers, but doesn't support latest standard for PKI access. So the certificates cannot be downloaded automatically, but must be obtained and loaded manually. Can you answer to that?
Yeah, we will provide providing the information indicated in the slides. We will be able to provide the certificates and then register in the PKI in a temporary way to make this test fest.
Okay, thank you, Jose. Maybe we continue. And because now we have the schedule, I think Pablo wanted to present that.
Okay, this is for me, I think. So you can have here a preliminary agenda, let's say. There is not too much detail on what we will have in each session, but basically the day you arrive, you can make the registration at 8:30 on Monday, and then we will have a briefing for the welcome and some safety instructions. And then we will have the test time, first making everything up and running with the test setup, and then the test session before lunch, and continuing the test session after the lunch. After the test, we will have the debriefing. We will be able to have a look of the results, have some questions and answers, and so on. And we can close the test day and the first test first day at 6 o'clock. The second day on Tuesday, again at CTAG facilities and surroundings, we will open the site at the same time, 8:30. We will have again the briefing and safety instructions. Basically, the safety instructions are for the test track. And we can have the test till the lunch break, then the lunch break, and test again after the lunch break. And again, we will have the debriefing where we will be able to talk and share our experiences and see the results. And we will close again the site at 6 p.m. And the third day, we will have the test in the city of Vigo. We are still discussing how to make the briefing of this session, because maybe it is good to make it the day before, but we will give more detail on this in the TestFest days. So we will have a test time for testing in the city of Vigo, and then we have the debriefing and the end of the test fest. So we will close the event at 1 p.m. on Wednesday.
Okay, thank you very much, Pablo.
Yeah, thank you to you.
And I had also a thank you from Josef. So obviously now we answered this question. So thank you, Jose, for answering to Josef. And for the C-MobILE participants, you will know then after Wednesday, after the test fest is closed, the General Assembly of C-MobILE will start. Okay, so now I have a few questions and answers. It's actually exactly the same slide as last time, but it's a question that is answered very often. So the first one is, do we have to be present Monday till Wednesday? In principle, not. There's a safety instruction on Monday, which is kind of mandatory. And so we, in any case, strongly advise you to take part in the desk and lab testing on the Monday, this test setup, so that you are well prepared for the road testing, which is then Monday through Wednesday, starting afterwards. And a very popular question is the second one. We want to participate in the test fest to test with our onboard unit or mobile devices. Is it mandatory to bring our own test vehicle as well? Well, there are no test vehicles provided for the participants, so either so you can rent a car at the local rental companies, and of course you have to bring all the material you need for your onboard units or mobile devices like cables, antennas, and so on, power supplies along with you, so that you can do meaningful testing during that week in a rental car. And the last question, is it mandatory to share our test data like log files? In principle, yes, for C-MobILE partners, we would expect that all C-MobILE partners share their data recorded during the testing and give it to Bart, as he has described in his slides. For any other users, which are the non-C-MobILE partners, we would very much appreciate if you could provide us with data. And as Bart has done now, the logging specification is ready and will be uploaded to the website so that you can have a look at it. So that are the frequently asked questions. And I think we are now nearly over with the time. Yeah, it's 3 o'clock. So, but still here are some contacts. So if you have questions that you haven't thought of yet, so you can send me an email, and of course to Pablo. Then that's for the overall organization and the test side. Then for the services, ITS-G5, cellular communication, server access, you would best address Andrea or Jose. And for result evaluation, it's Bart. And all information that is interesting will in any case be posted on the C-MobILE site, which you can see down here. So it's very easy, cmobileproject.eu/testfest. If you can't remember that later and want to find it, just look for C-MobILE and project. You will definitely find the website. Okay, I don't see any new questions. So last chance to write something. If not, our time is over. Doesn't seem that anybody wants to ask another question. If your question comes into your head a bit later, as I said already, just send us an email with it. And if not, I would say thank you for all the participants to participate and your attention to our presentation. I thank all my colleague panelists for their presentations. And still no questions. I would say we can close the call. I thank you all again, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all in about 4 weeks' time in Vigo, where we can do some real testing on the road then. Thank you very much, and have a nice afternoon. Goodbye.